Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya 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 Girivaradhari Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Brajajanaranjana Jaya Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Yamuna Tiravana Kunja Bihari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Yamuna Tiravana Chari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Nitya Gora Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitya Gora Hari Bol, Nitya Gora Hari Bol. Jaya Gora Nitai, Jaya Gora Nitai, Jaya Gora Nitai, Jaya Gora Nitai, Jaya Gora Nitai. Jaya Radha Govinda, Radha Govinda Radhe, Jaya Radha Govinda. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Gaura Premanande, Hari 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 Bol. Jaya Om Vishnupad, Paramahansa Parivijagacharya Sutra Shishmat, His Divine Grace. Abhayachanara Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivijagacharya Stotra Shachimad His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada ki jai. Ananda Gaudiya Vaishnavanda ki jai. Namacharya Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan ki jai. Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Mathura Dham ki jai. नवद्वीप मायापुर धाम की जय. पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय. गंगामय की जय. यमुनामय की जय. तुलसी देवी की जय. बृहद मृदंग की जय. संकीर्तन यज्ञ की जय. All glories to the assembly devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembly devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembly devotees. All glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga Jai. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manovishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupa Shri Agrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadhvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Radha Govinda Goswami Namine. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine. Okay, so firstly I'd like to thank Mother Prashanta and all of the VIHE devotees for giving me this opportunity to try to say something hopefully meaningful, worthwhile. So I don't give classes very, very often, but so I will try my best. So today's class is actually based on one of the essays that I wrote for Bhakti Vaibhav program. based on Canto 3. And as we know, the topic is forgiveness. Forgiveness. So when we think about forgiveness, I think all of us at some point of time have either been hurt by someone or we have hurt someone, right? Anyone who has not been hurt by anyone or hasn't hurt anyone? If that's the case, you don't need to hear the class. So anyway, sometimes it may be intentional, sometimes it may be accidental, but and sometimes we may have been hurt such that we have become scarred for life. Someone has said something or done something that really stayed with us, for such a long time, right? So this, and if we've hurt someone, we may have that residual guilt in our heart, knowing that we've done something, and still that guilt is with us, right? So why is this subject important? If we think about this, contemplate on this subject, we can reflect on some of the lessons from Srimad Bhagavatam on two aspects, actually: how to seek forgiveness, right, which is primarily very important for all of us to seek forgiveness in a sincere, genuine way, and then also how to offer forgiveness, right? And we can learn. Srimad Bhagavatam has many examples of how advanced devotees have stumbled and what they have done when they have stumbled, and how they have come back and recovered from this, right? So we can also see the example of the Supreme Lord himself, how he has a forgiving nature, right? And actually, Supreme Lord, he sets the standard for all of us to follow when it comes to forgiveness, and we'll give you some of the examples of where the Supreme Lord has done this. So I've divided this presentation into three areas, right? First is Krishna's quality of forgiveness or forgiving. Then the second part is how to seek forgiveness, a practical step-by-step process of how we should seek forgiveness if we have done something wrong or wronged someone. And then the third is how to offer forgiveness. If we're fortunate enough that someone comes to us and seeks forgiveness, how should we respond? How should we offer that forgiveness, right? And do it in a Vaishnava-like way. Okay, so first, Krishna's quality of forgiveness, right? So I think everyone will probably know this. What verse in Bhagavad Gita comes to mind when we think of how forgiving the Supreme Lord is? Bhagavad Gita verse. Quite a famous verse. Anyone? Very nice, yes. Apiche suduracharo, bhajate mamananyabhak, sadhureva mantavya, samyak eva vyavastito hisa. Even if one commits the most abominable action, if he is engaged in devotional service, he is to be considered saintly, because he is properly situated in his determination. Right? So when we think about our situation, since time immemorial, we have made many, many mistakes, not just in this lifetime, in so many lifetimes, And perhaps because of all of the mistakes we have made and we keep making, that we are still here in the material world, right? And really we've ignored or not taken to heart the instructions of advanced devotees or messages that come to us, or the Supreme Lord himself in his form as Paramatma continually giving us instructions, and somehow we've put those aside and not really taken those to heart, right? So in this way, we've been making these mistakes time immemorial. But one example from the third canto that really illustrates this aspect of making mistakes and how the Lord responds to that is the episode of Jaya and Vijay, right? When the four Kumaras, they come to the gates of Vaikuntha, Jaya and Vijay are there, and what do? Jaya and Vijay stop them, saying, no, you cannot go. You are not qualified. You have no right. And immediately what happens is that the Kumaras get very angry and they curse Jaya and Vijay. And the Supreme Lord finds out what has happened. And it's described, the Supreme Lord rushes to the scene. He rushes to the scene. He does not even put his slippers on. He rushes to the scene and he's there. And the first thing the Supreme Lord does is he folds his hands and offers apologies to the four Kumaras, saying, I am so sorry that my gatekeepers here have treated you in this unfortunate way. They did not know who you are. They did not understand your identity, and therefore they have stopped you inappropriately, incorrectly. But because they are my gatekeepers, I take the responsibility for their actions. The Lord is apologizing to the Kumaras, saying, they are my gatekeepers, therefore their actions are my responsibility. I take responsibility, and therefore I am apologizing to you, the four Kumaras. And then the four Kumaras hear this apology from the Lord, and then now they feel bad, saying, hey, perhaps we acted hastily in cursing Jaya and Vijay. And the four Kumaras also feel regret and remorse and say, forgive us, O Lord, for our hasty action of cursing these doorkeepers who are actually innocent, right? Who are actually innocent, and they were just doing their duty. So in this way, the Kumaras also start accepting responsibility and offering apology. And of course, Jay and Vijay, they were the first to apologize, to say, forgive us, we didn't mean any inappropriate actions. We didn't recognize you, forgive us, we're okay, we're willing to accept any punishment. And even the Supreme Lord says, I'm willing to have any repentance, including cutting off 2 of my arms, as an act of compensation. And in the four Kumaras also say the same thing, that, forgive us, and we're also willing to accept any kind of punishment. Right? So, so what happens? Jay and Vijay take immediate responsibility, the Supreme Lord takes responsibility, and then the four Kumaras take responsibility. So we may wonder, whose fault is this? Who made the error? Who screwed up? Who is the real offender, right? So we can learn a couple of things from this episode, right? The first lesson we learn is that in any kind of heated or stressful type of situation, the fault is very rarely one-sided. Right? The fault is always on both sides or multiple sides, and that when all the parties recognize this, then there can be some fruitful discussion, right? And actually, as this episode shows, that no matter what situation occurs, that in every situation, to a certain extent, even the Lord is to blame, right? We wonder how, why do we want it? That's easy to do, right? It went wrong because it's Krishna's fault, right? That's an easy kind of out. But really, when we understand that really everything happens by Krishna's plan, if you understand that everything really happens by Krishna's plan, to a certain extent, yes, this was in Krishna's plan, and this happened, right? So yes, part of the responsibility is for the for Lord. A second lesson is that regardless of how advanced we are, certainly the Kumaras were highly elevated devotees, right? The Supreme Lord. But regardless of how advanced we get, we can always make mistakes, right? We can always make mistakes, and we can offend others, right? And the difference, though, is between us and maybe advanced devotees, is that advanced devotees immediately realize their mistake, and they act on that realization. They try to recompense, and they try to restore the situation, regardless of intent, and regardless of the background, right? So let us consider. Now, Lord, we know, is very, very forgiving. How forgiving is that Lord, right? And we can analyze it. We can analyze it from the point of intent and action, right? Intent and action, right? So any offense has these primary two components, which is, what was the intent behind the action and what was the action itself. So the first scenario is when the intent is good, but the action is bad, right? The intent is good, the action is bad, right? What does Krishna do? Krishna, he accepts the intent and overlooks the action, right? He accepts the intent and overlooks the action. And this example of Jay and Vijay is a wonderful example of that. Certainly there was no intent on Jay and Vijay to do anything malicious. There was no intent really on the Kumara's side to really hurt anyone, right? But somehow this happened, right? So the Lord understood that there's no bad intent here. The action somehow worked out bad. So he overlooks the action and everyone is forgiven. So Lord is always, we will understand the Lord always forgives, regardless of intent and action. Okay, so now, what happens if the intent is bad, but the action is good? Intent is bad and the action is good. Anyone think of a story from Bhagavatam that illustrates this situation? Yes, Prabhu.
So during the VIHE class I was listening, the wife of Shiva, she wanted, no, it was not wife,
Kashyap and Diti.
Yeah, Diti wanted a son to kill Indra.
Yes.
So the intent was bad, but the action to get the son, to perform the vrata was good.
Yes, that's one example too. Yes, any other example? Anyone can think of very, very wonderful Krishna Leela. Govardhan Leela, was action good? Was the intent good?
Action was good in the sense they all collectively stayed for 7 days.
No, the action of the wrongdoer, right? We're talking about the action of the wrongdoer. Right? So that will come up, that example, but not in this case.
Putana wanted to kill and she was feeding.
Very nice, yes, right? The example of Putana, right? Putana, her intent was very bad, right? She wants to kill Krishna. But her action was actually very good. She came offering motherly love, right? Motherly love to Krishna. So what does Krishna do? Krishna accepts the action, he ignores the intent, right? Right? There's the very, very famous verse. What is it? If I can find it. Aho bakiyam stanakala kutam jighamsa. What is it, Prabhu? Yes, very nice, right? Kimma dayalu. Kimma dayalu. Sharanam Rajema. Right. So, and Uddhav, this is Uddhav speaking to Vidura, right? In this verse, Uddhav saying that actually, alas, how shall I take shelter of one more merciful than him, Lord Krishna, who granted the position of mother to the she-demon Putna, although she was faithless and had prepared deadly poison to be sucked from her breast, right? So this was her intent, but her action was good, and Lord gave her the position of Supreme Mother, right, in the spiritual world, right? So even though, she wanted to kill the Supreme Lord, Krishna ignored that. Her action was good. So when we think about it, this applies to certainly me and maybe many of us too, as aspiring devotees trying to advance, that even though we are performing devotional service in various ways, we're thinking we're performing devotional service for the Supreme Lord, but subtly, deep down in our consciousness, there's this hope that, hey, maybe others will see how wonderful service I did, how wonderfully I addressed the deities today. Someone will appreciate me for doing that, right? Someone will acknowledge that, or someone will appreciate the prasadam I cook, right? Or whatever, right? So that recognition, that kind of drive or need, subtle as it may be, for recognition, respect, some glorification, that is there, right? That is there. So ultimately, the action is very good. We're performing pure devotional service, not so pure maybe, but devotional service. But our subtle intent is somewhat colored, right, in that sense. And what does Krishna do? Krishna ignores all of that, subtle bad intent. Yes, that my devotee, he may not have cooked that offering just for my pleasure. He may have been thinking, oh, when will the offering be done? I can enjoy these wonderful pakoras, and he may have that in the back of his mind, right? Or let me make all these items, right? Then we can have a wonderful feast. But Krishna says, I'm not worried about what he's thinking. He offered me wonderful offering, and I accept that, right? So this is Krishna's mood, right? He accepts that. And he's still, my devotee is, maybe he's not giving class for my pleasure, right? Maybe it's just for, getting some acknowledgement for how knowledgeable he is or whatever, right? So, but all of this Krishna ignores. He just assumes that it's being done for me, and he accepts it. Okay? All right, so we covered good intent and bad action, and bad intent and good action. So now what if the intent is bad and the action is bad? Right? Intent is bad and the action is bad. Okay? What does Krishna do then? He tries to find something good. Yes. So there's actually two parts of that scenario. Intent is bad, action is bad. First part is Krishna just waits to be asked. He just, when the intent is bad and the action is bad, soon as that wrongdoer asks for forgiveness, Krishna unhesitatingly forgives. Right? And the example of that is Brahma. There's many examples of those, right? Many examples of those. But Prabhu had mentioned earlier, Lord Indra and Krishna, right? What did Lord Indra do? Govardhan, right? His intent was to destroy Vraj. Terrible intent. His action was thunderbolts, lightning, hailstones the size of golf balls raining everywhere, right? And his intent was really destructive. But what does Krishna do? As soon as Indra comes and asks for forgiveness, Krishna says, okay, I forgive you. You go back, do your duties. Story over. Let's carry on. We don't need to look back, right? So this is his mood, right? And again, this situation applies to us too. Time and time again, we have rejected Krishna's counsel and instructions. But Krishna, he never gives up on us. He's always there, patiently waiting, just for us to turn to him and say, Krishna, please forgive me, guide me, right? He stays with us eternally in our hearts as Paramatma. He travels with us everywhere we go. In the same way, Srila Prabhupada stays with his followers, regardless of how slow they are to take up his instructions. And we see that in so many of Prabhupada's leelas in the early days, how he forgave so many of the neophyte devotees. They would do all kinds of nonsense and offense. Prabhupada never got mad at them, angry at them. He just, okay, don't do it again. That's okay, let's carry on. Another very nice example of this is in the Ramayana, right? Just before the great battle is about to begin in Lanka. Angad goes to Ravana. Angad goes to Ravana, and at this time Ravan's committed, he has terrible intent, terrible action. He's kidnapped Sita, right? So he has no intent, his action is bad, he has no remorse, nothing. Still, Angad goes to Ravana and says to Ravana, even if now you go to my Lord and ask for forgiveness, he will forgive you. He will forgive you, right? This was the statement of Angad. And this was what the Supreme Lord said too, right? In the same episode when Vibhishan came, and Vibhishan was forgiven, right? And Vibhishan was actually not forgiven, but was accepted. And then, I forget who asked, but someone asked Lord Ram, but what will you do if Ravan comes and asks for forgiveness? What will you give? Yes, Vibhishan was given Lanka, right? As saying, I now crown you king of Lanka. And then someone said, well, what will you do if Ravan comes and forgives you and asks for forgiveness. And Ram unhesitatingly said, I will give him Ayodhya, right? So this is the mood of the Supreme Lord, okay? So that's why in the purport of this verse, Aho Bhakiyam Stankala Kutam, Srila Prabhupada makes a very, very profound statement. Srila Prabhupada says that this is the standard of his character. Therefore, who but the Lord can be the ultimate shelter? Right? This is the standard of his character. It's not that he is artificially doing this. This is his nature. This is his fundamental nature. Okay. Now, there's only one situation when Krishna will not forgive us. Only one situation. What is that? Right, right. The Lord will not forgive us if we offend his devotee. If we offend his devotee, as we know, Vaishnava Prad, no, the Lord cannot forgive us. Why is that? Why can the Lord not forgive us?
Because he loves his devotees very much.
He loves his devotees very much, yes. Anything else? No. It's a very simple reason, actually. It's a very simple reason. We cannot forgive someone on behalf of someone else. Right? No, sorry, no, he's done wrong, but I forgive you, kind of thing, right? So forgiveness has to come from the person who has been wronged, right? And also forgiveness has to be sought not by someone else. I apologize on his behalf. No, it has to be sought by the person who has committed the offense or the wrongdoer. And the person who commits the offense approaches the person who has been hurt or wronged, then there's a good basis for restoring a normal relation. And what is the wonderful example from Srimad Bhagavatam of this situation? Again, a very, very popular pastime. Very nice, yes. Ambrish Maharaj, right? Ambrish Maharaj and Durvasa Muni. What happened, right? Ambrish Maharaj was breaking his year-long fast, right? And the time for breaking fast had come. Durvasa Muni came at the same time. Now Ambrish Maharaj is in a dilemma. If I don't break my fast, I'm breaking the rules of breaking fast. And if I break my fast, I offend Durvasa Muni. So he reasons, okay, I will take just a drop of water. He takes the drops of water. Durvasa Muni immediately realizes that Ambrish Maharaj, instead of offering him prasadam first, has honored himself. And as is the character of Durvasa Muni, he becomes angry, like a fireball, pulls the hair from his head, throws it on the ground. Immediately a big, huge fiery demon emanates and is about to sends it, devour Ambrish Maharaj. But the Supreme Lord sees this and he cannot tolerate. Supreme Lord cannot tolerate wrong being done to his devotee. Immediately the Supreme Lord sends Sudarshan Chakra. Sudarshan Chakra immediately devours the demon. And then Sudarshan Chakra goes after Durvasa Muni. And what does Durvasa Muni do? Durvasa Muni starts running all over the universe. The Sudarshan Chakra. And the heat of the Sudarshan Chakra is burning Durvasa Muni. And he goes to Brahma, he goes to Shiva, he goes to Vishnu. None of them can forgive him. None of them can forgive him, right? No. So then he eventually comes back. He comes back and offers his Dandavat Pranams to Ambrish Maharaj, right? Again, a couple of interesting observations. When Durvasa Muni curses Ambrish Maharaj, what is Ambrish Maharaj's response?
He accepted it.
Yes, right? He didn't get angry and saying, be reasonable, Durvasa. Look, and I'm offering you, but I had to do this too, right? No mode of defensiveness or anything. Fold hands, willing to accept whatever comes as the mercy of the Lord, right? This is Ambrish Maharaj, right? That's his mood. And on the other hand, Durvasa Muni, he's going all over the universe. He's telling Lord Brahma, he's telling Lord Shiva, but it wasn't my fault, he committed an offense. I had to punish him, right? It's not my fault, right? So in this way, he's trying to be defensive, justify his actions, and so forth. And we see this so many times in our community, in our societies, right? If we've done something wrong, we try to go and convince other people that it really wasn't my fault. It was, the situation was like that, and this happened, and that happened, and just see it objectively. It really wasn't my fault, right? That's what we tend to do, right? We go everywhere, become defensive, justify our actions, right? And eventually that doesn't work. The only thing that results in, just as with Durvasa Muni, the heat of the Sudarshan Chakra was burning his heart continually. In the same way, when we take that approach, the guilt of the wrongdoing continues to burn within our heart, right? It doesn't get resolved that way. That is just, that measure doesn't help us in any way. So, the more we procrastinate for asking for forgiveness, the more that guilt burns us up, just like the wheel of the Sudarshan Chakra. So, this asking for forgiveness, it's quite difficult, right? It's, when we've done something wrong, it's not so easy just to stand up and say, Prabhu, Mataji, please forgive me, I've done something wrong. And it's not so easy to do, right? Even though that simple act of saying, oh, I'm really sorry, in a genuine way is the best way, the best antidote to, in any relationship, to keep that relationship strong and mutually beneficial. But sometimes what happens is that when we do make that apology, it's taken as very cheap, very superficial, right? And we're actually afraid. This is why we're afraid to apologize. We're concerned, will he take my apology sincerely? Will he say, too little, too late? Right? So we don't know how that person is going to respond, which gives us hesitation in going out and apologizing. It's really our false ego. Our ego doesn't want to be hurt, right? So, we may be questioned. Does he really mean that, right? So, how do we ask for forgiveness, right? How do we ask for forgiveness? There are a number of steps. There are 4 steps in asking for forgiveness. Okay, a practical way of asking for forgiveness. The first step is we have to offer sincere appreciation. And that sincere appreciation has to be accompanied with genuine humility. And this, when we do this, when we're able to do this, this prepares the groundwork, prepares the foundation, right? In the Bhagavatam, again, a very wonderful example, right? Eventually, in the pastimes of Lord Shiva and Daksha, right? Eventually, Daksha realizes, he's made a big mistake. He's not recognized who Lord Shiva is, right? And in that way, he's publicly humiliated him. He's spoken so many strong words against Lord Shiva, right? You have the eyes of a monkey, right? So here, what does Daksha do in the end? In the end, he offers beautiful prayers to Lord Shiva, right? Appreciating him, acknowledging his position. And in this way, Lord Shiva immediately forgives him, right? So that appreciation has to be there, right? Krishna, Durvasa Muni also does similarly when he finally offers his obeisances to Ambrish Maharaj. He offers immense appreciation for the qualities of Ambrish Maharaj. So now the appreciation we offer, though, has to be specific. In order to be a genuine apology, the appreciation has to be specific. It's very, very easy for us to say, oh, today's prasadam was wonderful, right? Or today's class was great, Prabhuji, class was wonderful. But that's a little cheap. everyone, it's a great thing. Good job, pat on the back, carry on, right? It has to be specific, right? All right, so that was step one, right? Step one, offer sincere, specific appreciation with genuine humility. Step two is a statement of apology, right? And this statement of apology is actually one of the core components of it. It has multiple parts to it. I think it's 3 parts to a statement of apologies. So part one is that statement has to be a specific statement of our wrongdoing. Right? What does Indra tell Krishna when he comes? I'm very sorry I tried to destroy Vraj. I tried to destroy the residents of Vraj and the cows and so many animals, right? When we give that specific statement of wrongdoing, we communicate our sincerity and we acknowledge that what we understand was actually wrong. If we just say, I'm sorry, Prabhu, it's okay, no, I'm sorry. That's again, what are you sorry for? Right? Many times, this is where we aren't effective when we try to apologize. Many times, we start an apology with, Prabhuji, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry you felt bad. I'm so sorry you felt bad, But, I was really stressed out, I had a really hard day that day, and, this happened and that happened and that happened, and my mind wasn't there, and I'm really so sorry that you felt bad, right? So that kind of approach is not effective, right? Because what are we saying? Right? It's really not my problem. It's your problem that you're feeling bad, you really shouldn't feel bad about this. You're being overly sensitive, right? So that isn't effective if we want to apologize. That's just a cover-up, right? That's just a cover-up, right? So Daksha says to Lord Shiva, I'm so sorry I made the mistake of insulting you in front of so many elevated devotees, right? And not recognizing your real identity. That's what I did wrong, right? So that specificity, again, has to be there in that statement of apology. So that's part one of statement of apology. Part two is that we have to incorporate an unconditional agreement for mitigation, right? So it's not just talk, right? There has to be some agreement to say, hey, I'm willing to do X, Y, and Z to make up for what I did wrong, all right? And if needed in that process, we can also, carefully clarify our intent. Why did this happen, right? Sometimes we build up the courage, after much contemplation to say, yes, I have done something wrong, I have to go and ask for forgiveness, right? We face someone, but then we say, I'm stressed out. I really shouldn't have done this. But we justify our actions, as we were saying, right? And there, again, as we were saying, in that case, we're communicating that we're not willing to take the responsibility, right? We're not willing. The only caveat we can give in this process is clarifying the intent. Why did this happen in the first place? What was my real intent? My goal was to do this, that, and the other, right? But instead, this, that, and this happened. This was not my intent to hurt you, right? So we just, in class yesterday, we were hearing the story of Diti and Indra, right? Diti and Indra. Indra had, again, terrible intent, wanted to kill the embryo in the womb of Diti. Diti also had bad intent, right? Diti wanted a son that could kill Indra, right? So both of them, were there. Of course, with Diti's intent, she goes to Kashyap Muni, and Kashyap Muni gives her this whole process of Pumsan Rat, and she religiously follows it. And Indra, finding this out, Indra actually goes in disguise, tries to help her, with the real motive and intent of, as soon as she messes up, I'm going to be in there. I'll catch her, right? I'll catch her, right? And he finds that opportunity, right? He finds that opportunity. She takes some water without washing her hands, and immediately Indra takes advantage of that opportunity, enters her womb, and cuts the embryo in 7 pieces with his thunderbolt. And all of the 7 embryos say, "But Indra, don't do this to us. We're your brothers, we're your friends. Why are you doing this to us?" And Indra, not believing him, cuts all 7 embryos again 7 times, and then there's now 49 embryos, all pleading with Indra that don't do this, don't hurt us, we are your, not noble, right? I wanted a child that would kill you, right? So Srila Prabhupada comments here that, Diti, Indra's aunt, explained to Indra without reservation what she wanted to do. Indra explained his intentions to her. Thus both, instead of being enemies, freely spoke the truth and re-established their cordial relationship, right? So part 3 of the statement of apology is to offer remedy. Offer remedy. I have made a great mistake. How can I make this right? Can we meet on a regular basis? I insulted you in front of others. Can I tell them I was wrong? I'll go and tell them publicly, I'm so sorry, I said this, and try to make things right. Without proposing corrective action, our apology may be just taken as words. Nothing substantial behind it. So there has to be some action behind to support that, yes, this isn't just a superficial apology to just get on and go on and put it behind us, but I will recompense. Okay, so that was the statement of apology. Now, step 3 is we have to feel a genuine sense of remorse, right? It's not that we are doing this just because it's etiquette, just to restore stability and peace, but we in our hearts have to feel sorry that we did this wrong, and we know that it was wrong, right? If we make an apology without any feeling of regret, our apology is just external. There's no internal meaning behind it. Feeling that genuine sense of remorse is actually the purifying result that purifies our hearts. And the effect that it has is it prevents us from making that same mistake again. If we don't have a recompense, very likely we'll do the same thing again, right? The example of Parikshit Maharaj and Shringi is there in Srimad Bhagavatam, right? Of course, we know the story. Prabhupada says that everyone involved felt a great sense of remorse, right? Parikshit Maharaj felt remorse. What have I done? I put a dead snake on that sage's head, for no reason. Why did I do that, right? And Shringi Rishi, he's saying, what has my son done for such a minor offense? He has committed the king of the universe to death, right? He's cursed him in such a way. How foolish. And of course, Shringi himself, he's crying and weeping and saying, what have I done? What have I done? So everyone feels this great sense of remorse. The repentance is what delivers a devotee from all kinds of sins accidentally performed. And by the grace of the Lord, when we perform sins unwittingly, accidentally, right, they are burnt to ashes, right, in the fire of repentance, right? And repentance is very powerful and can neutralize the results of these sins. Okay, I'm running out of time. So, so that was how to seek forgiveness. Let's spend last few minutes on how to offer forgiveness. Why is it? Right? It's really residual anger, right? We have been hurt. We've been damaged. Our false ego has been scarred. And we feel that hurt and anguish, and we're not able to let that go. So even when someone comes asking for forgiveness, that anger is still there, burning us up. We cannot just, give into that and say, it's okay, don't worry about it, right? So that is the biggest aspect of what happens. And, often the hurt that has been caused is disproportional to the cause, the action, right? The example of Shringi and Parikshit Maharaj is a perfect example. Relatively minor offense, and the punishment, death, right? Death, right? In 7 days, right? So completely disproportional, right? So Parikshit Maharaj would be quite justified in saying, it's a minor offense, you're giving me this, And he was capable of cursing back, but no, right? He doesn't do that, right? So, and that anger is such a obstacle that it can cause us all kinds of issues and problems. We have to learn how to direct that anger in a productive way. Srila Prabhupada's anger, his pastimes had some wonderful examples. Right? His disciples would describe his anger, Srila Prabhupada's anger. Anyone know how his disciples describe Prabhupada's anger? It's a wonderful statement. Thunderbolt. Yeah, his disciples would say, it came like a hammer and crushed them. Right? That was Prabhupada's anger. Came like a hammer and crushed them. But in a flash, it was gone. He didn't dwell on it. Right? Yes, you screwed up badly. Okay. Now, let's continue. What's for prasadam? Right? No resentment, no bad feeling carried forth. Right? So like a wildfire, when anger gets out of control, it burns us, not the person who triggered the fire. Right? So yes, we are angry. It was caused by someone, but the fire is in us. It's going to burn us if we don't control it, right? When we forgive someone, we may think that we're being so noble, right? We're being so elevated, offering forgiveness. Actually, that's not the right mindset. The person we're doing the biggest favor is ourselves. When we forgive someone, we're putting out that fire of anger and resentment, which is otherwise going to burn us for so long, right? That's the real reason to offer forgiveness, right? It's for our benefit. When Lord Ram returns from exile, Mother Kaikeyi asks for forgiveness. Right? Mother Kaikeyi asks for, and Lord Ram responds, I had forgiven you on the day I left Ayodhya. This is how I was able to live peacefully all 14 years, right? Just think, if it was an ordinary person, 14 years, you're thinking about what Mother Kaikeyi did, right, in your mind. How could you live with that, right? So this is the mood, right? So quickly, there are 5 steps for offering forgiveness. 5 steps, right? First one is we have to change the perception of the person who has harmed us, right? We must accept that everyone is forced to act based on their innate nature. And that nature is hard to change, right? If a person is forced to act in a certain way, can we really blame them, right? It's their nature, it's their personality, that they did something, or they acted, or they said something, I'll say, especially if she's not here, my wife, she has all good intent in her heart. But her tone of voice just comes out a little aggressive, a little loud, right? And that can hurt people. That can hurt people. But I know, because I've lived with her so many years, there's nothing in her heart. Her intent is good. But still, somehow it comes out like that, and then people feel hurt, right? So we have to understand that, hey, that's their nature. They couldn't help it, right? We have to think in that way, right? Second step, recognize that the person who has caused us suffering is actually suffering themselves. It's not that they're bubbling in euphoria, but they're actually burning up too, right? When Sita devastates Lakshman, right? In the episode there of where Ram has gone to catch the golden deer, and Lakshman is devastated for all of the things Sita says, you wanted to send Ram away so you could enjoy me, right? And Lakshman is just totally devastated. I've only looked at your lotus feet all this time. Eventually Lakshman goes, he finds Ram. And Ram says, why are you here? I told you to protect Sita. Why are you here? And then Lakshman explains that, she said this and this, and shows so much strong words she used for me. What does Ram say? Ram say, you should ignore that. She's a woman. She was stressed. Why are you taking her words seriously? You should ignore that, right? This is Ram's mood, right? She's in pain. She's taking that out of this. So if we can understand this principle, we can change the narrative and feel some genuine compassion, right, for whoever's done wrong. Next step, recognize that even they are dear to Krishna. Whoever the wrongdoer is, they are also dear to Krishna. Now, forgiveness doesn't mean that we're like doormat. Anyone can walk us over us and we accept, right? Forgiveness doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean we condone the wrong behavior, say, and it's okay. And if we do that, it may happen again, right? But at the same time, we don't need to be the judge and jury, right? The wrongdoing has been done. We don't need to be the judge and Yamraj and saying, okay, you will burn in hell of karma, right? We gave them that punishment, that's going to come back to us, right? So we don't want to be that source. So we don't condone the wrong behavior, but we actually at the same time don't, Krishna says, the intricacies of actions are very hard to understand. If we react to wrongdoing, we continue that endless cycle of action and inaction. Action and reaction, sorry. When we offer genuine forgiveness, we make a conscious decision to break that cycle there. And amazingly, if we do that correctly, right? Actually sometimes, sometimes if we're really angry, we're just wishing that, this person's apologizing, but really Krishna should recognize immediately and send Sudarshan Chakra, lightning bolt, burn him on the spot. He's hurt me so much, right? But that, amazingly, nothing happens, right? We're thinking that should happen. He should deserve that, but nothing happens, right? In reality, nothing happens. And the reason that Krishna doesn't destroy them right there and then on the spot is that that's not his nature. As we saw, Krishna is forgiving. That's not his nature, right? He didn't do that with Durvasa Muni. Destroy him right there on the spot, right? He will, in the due course of time, give punishment for the wrongdoing and give them a chance to reform, right? He gives them the benefit of the doubt. Next step 4 in offering forgiveness, right? Step 4 is we need to introspect on the real cause of our suffering. Beautiful example from Bhagavatam. Anyone think of a real beautiful example in Bhagavatam? Where?
Lord Brahma. Brahma will not be there.
In what way?
He introspected that he has committed a mistake, so then he offers prayer to Krishna.
Okay. An example in Srimad Bhagavatam. Not so much, right? Durvasa didn't do any introspection. No, the question is, what is an example in Srimad Bhagavatam where someone is caused all kinds of suffering, and when asked, who is the cause of your suffering? He introspects. Doesn't immediately say, he did it. The bull, yes. Dharmaraj and the bull. Dharmaraj and the bull, right? Parikshit Maharaj asks the bull, who has done this? Who has chopped off your legs? Who has caused you all this suffering? And it was clear that Kali had done this. He was standing there with the axe. And what does the bull say? Not so easy. It's very hard to determine who is the actual cause of our suffering, right? When we think about it. Maybe so many things I have done in my past lives or even this life that has put me into this condition, right? How am I to blame him, right? So when we introspect on the real cause of our suffering, that again positions us to offer and accept that genuine apology, right? Similarly, Queen Kunti prays to the Lord, right? Give me more suffering, because that suffering reminds me of you. I get your darshan. Last step in offering forgiveness is to offer, final step, offer the genuine forgiveness. First, we have to recognize it's actually very hard for someone to stand up and say, I'm wrong, Prabhu. Please forgive me. I did this wrong, right? We know it's hard for us. You can imagine how hard it is for someone else, right? Right? They had to develop a lot of courage to actually stand up and do that. So when they do that, the last thing we want to do is to crush them, right? We need to accept that apology as face value. If we stand up and say, too little, too late, you really shouldn't have done this, right? That person is just crushed and destroyed, right? What's the point? Why did I do this, right? We accept the apology at face value, and we accept the desire for genuine reform, and understand that even if they cannot admit what they did wrong to the exact detail and accept that, at least they will reflect on it over time. They will reflect on it, and they will understand themselves, right? And in that process, what we need to do is finally offer a process to just normalize, restore the relationships, no grudges, right? Right? Again, in the example of Indra, Krishna doesn't say to Indra that, don't do this again, and I'm going to be watching for you, and all of this, right? He says, it's okay, it's over. You go back and run heaven. I'm going to do my own thing, right? Let's not dwell on this. And very notably, right, Krishna doesn't demand a public apology. In fact, the apology Indra gives, it's a very secluded place. Only Krishna and Indra and Surpi are there. He's not trying to, show the world that, look, he's admitting that he screwed up, wrong, right? No, apology is done in that genuine way, in private, to the person who's wronged us, and accepted in a very Vaishnava, devotional-like way. This is the mood of the Supreme Lord, right? This is the mood of the Supreme Lord, right? So, just to conclude, just about run out of time. So, I know I might have hurt others, and in some times I've experienced hurt. But when we look at some of these lessons from Srimad Bhagavatam, right, we can see that perspective. It gives us a different perspective with which to understand these kinds of events, right? And ultimately, it helps us remain peaceful in any of these situations, right? And that basis gives us a very nice foundation both to offer forgiveness and seek forgiveness, right? Seek forgiveness, offer forgiveness, right? So in just the last example, in Srimad Bhagavatam, again, Canto 3, Chapter 2, Krishna is coming back to see Vasudeva and Devaki. Seeing Vasudeva and Devaki. And of course, we know Krishna himself is all perfect. He's not capable of doing anything wrong. How can God do anything wrong? Right? Still, when he returns to Mathura and faces Vasudeva and Devaki, Srila Prabhupada has a wonderful little section in his purport here. He says, and the most brilliant part of his supreme character was that he begged pardon from his parents for being unable to serve their feet while absent from their home because of fear of Kamsa, right? The Supreme Lord, his lotus feet are worshipped by everyone in the universe, right? By the demigods, Brahma, Shiva. What does he want to do? He wants to worship the feet of Vasudeva, right? This kind of instruction by the Supreme Lord is very, very appropriate for all of us. With that, thank you all so much for your kind attention. I'll be the first one to ask forgiveness if I've said anything inappropriate or misquoted anything or in any way said anything inappropriate, so please forgive me. As I said, I'm just not such a good person at giving classes, but by the mercy of VIHE and the training that's provided, it's given me a little bit more courage and thought to organize some of these things, and I hope you've found it of some use. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. One more last thing. I really don't want to take the credit for this class because I wanted to mention at the beginning, but I forgot. This whole class is based on a seminar by a very, very wonderful devotee. I'm honored to call him my friend. His Grace Radhikaraman Prabhu. His Grace Radhikaraman Prabhu gives a 3-day seminar on this topic. He goes into great detail about all of these elements, and I just tried to capture a few of his words and present it here. So, if any credit goes to, please pass it to him. If there's any fault, I take no blame for that. Thank you.
It is a very wonderful class, and you mention in all details about the steps of forgiveness and giving each example to that step. Each step you give example, and it was really nectarian, and got so much information from your class.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you. Any other? Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you very much for the class. It was very useful, all the steps. I only have one question. What if we do something wrong to somebody and we offer our forgiveness to them and say, no, I didn't take any offense, Prabhu. But you notice in their action that they did take offense. And afterwards they may mention it again or thing. So what to do in this case? They don't accept your apology in this way? They say
Yes.
that.
Yes, right. So, we learned in the process and steps of accepting forgiveness, right, to accept the apology at face value. But ultimately, a very valid point that sometimes we try, but the person is just not willing to accept our apology. What can we do? We tried, we humbly accepted, genuinely apologized. If they don't accept the apologies, we just pray to Krishna, right? That, we tried, but we did our part. We did our part. And we will feel that guilt is gone from our hearts. If that person is not willing to accept that, maybe he will over time. Sometimes it takes time. Then nothing more we can do, really. So.
Suppose if a person is committing any offense, and we know that he's committing offense, but he's not even asking forgiveness. In that situation, how to deal with that person?
Right? That was one of the examples, right? When the intent is bad and the action is bad, right? Krishna waits patiently for the person to ask for forgiveness. But what if the person never asks for forgiveness, right? Krishna still waits. He waits, he waits, he waits. Right?
And how to deal with that person? Suppose you and then we are angry, but how will you forgive him and how will you deal with him? Because they are not normal situation.
We cannot demand an apology, right? This is a mistake we sometimes make is, you hurt me so badly, you need to make a public apology right now, right? Right? That just puts the person even more on defensive. The only thing we can do is by our character, by our example, right? We don't hold resentment against that person. We understand his situation. We offer compassion to that person, right? He may have been doing something. We understand this may be part of Krishna's grand plan of things, right? That this is coming to us. We accept that, we tolerate it, right? Eventually, we rely that the Lord will come back and give that person some action or recompense or some event that will make him realize, right? We don't instill the whip of punishment saying that you did this wrong, right? Let me call 911, get the police out and send you to jail, right? Mataji, please correct me if I've said something incorrect.
These are very difficult situations, but the point is always that if we are getting hurt, we should understand that suffering is a reaction for all was
Yes.
very difficult to accept.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yes, yes,
We have
yes.
to take shelter. We have to take shelter of Krishna and somehow go through the experience with it. And I wanted to give an example, which is a very difficult one in one sense. I met one time old lady actually. It was in Switzerland. I was a new devotee at that time, and I met this old lady. She was a Christian. But I got attracted to her because she looked very saintly. So I mean, worship with her, I gave her a Bhagavad Gita, and we used to chat, I used to visit her, because she was really wonderful. And then one day she told me her life history. She was a widow at that time, and quite old. And she told me her life history, how she had married in her youth somebody who seemed to be very nice. And then after a few years, the husband was a military. He was some kind of officer in the army. And then he was posted in Africa. And the whole family went. She went with him, living in very difficult conditions in this tropical Africa, in Congo, I think, someplace like that. And then he got into bad association because of all the army type of environment. He became a drunkard. And then the situation at home became terrible. He would come back and beat up everybody, the 3 kids, the wife, and it went on for years and years and years and years. And it was in the beginning of the 20th century. So it was not that, at that time the culture was very different, that the wife is just going to take off, divorce, go do something else. The culture was very different. And she was stuck in the middle of jungly Africa. Where could she go? So she tolerated this very difficult situation for herself and the kids for many years. And then after many years, they shifted back to Switzerland. And but he was addicted to this drinking, so it continued for more years. And then the children, finally grew up and started protecting their mother, and so many things happened. And this whole time, this lady took shelter in the Bible, and she took shelter in Krishna, in God. And she was praying and praying and praying and praying that please enlighten my husband and please forgive him. She was really, and by the time, really she looked like a saint. And then what happened is, and she was living in an apartment by the time I met her, which was an old Swiss house with wooden staircase. And she was telling me how, when he was drunk, she could hear him stumble in the staircase, and she knew, I'm going to get him. And then it went on like this for a long time. And then one day, he came, and something miraculous happened. He came, and he fell at her feet, and he cried, and he asked her for forgiveness. That I have been behaving, I gave you a hellish life. I was meant to protect you and take care of you. I gave you a hellish life, and I realized this. And so she immediately forgave him, and she told him, please, so, please don't do that anymore. And it stopped, miraculously. He was not drinking anymore. And and then, after about 1 year, one day, she heard him stumbling in the staircase. She heard, and rightly he arrived, and he was his, roaring self. But at that time, somehow, she had a very different reaction. And she actually stood against him. And she said, listen, I tolerated you for many years for the sake of our family and our children. Now, for 1 year, you were saying, you know, if you, now you go and sleep, and if you do this one more time, we'll never see you again. So she spoke like that, and then she said that after that, he lived for another 9 years, and they had a peaceful end of their life. So for me, it was to hear that was, wow, such a life example of somebody who somehow, you know, lived her karma through and took shelter in God all the time. So she became saintly, and somehow the husband changed, and everything was a success in the end. So, but of course, not everybody is able to do that. But truly, there is no other solution, because whatever suffering we are due to receive, we will receive it here or we will receive it there. There is no way we can really escape by just changing situation. So this is an amazing, it's a kind of sati story, you know, that, but it takes a lot of inner strength to do that. But it is the solution. Ultimately, she was free from all, she became saintly. She was free from all grudge and anger, and she was like a well-wisher. When you would approach her, you could feel the non-enviousness, that somebody who has overcome the bad side of human nature. So what a reward. And this is what forgiveness gives saintliness. Those who can forgive become saintly.
Very nice. And same, those who tolerate the suffering. In that situation, Prabhupada used the example of diamonds, right? How do you make a diamond, right? You have to take a piece of charcoal and put it in a furnace and take it to extreme temperature, and eventually force it pressure and temperature and so much heat and suffering. But eventually what comes out is that beautiful shining diamond, right? So it's a beautiful example of that, right? That diamond was revealed.
Yeah, I want to add also that it's not that we can just, this person did it naturally, but some people are not able to tolerate, and they are not able to take shelter. And so as a community, when we know that there is domestic abuse or there is some abuse somewhere, we do have to take some action.
Absolutely.
We cannot just let it pass. But this is just, you know, this is a very wonderful example. At the same time, place, and circumstance.
Especially in America. America, you cannot let anything like this, you cannot overlook it at all. You have to immediately engage the authorities, child abuse, domestic abuse. It's a very, very severe, and appropriately so.
So even in Christianity, I heard Jesus Christ says, "Forgive and forget, the door for the heaven will be open."
Yes.
That's a very famous quote.
Yes. I think isn't it the first commandment? First of the 10 commandments?
Thou shalt forgive.
Thou shalt forgive.
First commandment.
Yes.
Door for the heaven will be open.
Yes. No.
To forgive, there has to be so many other qualities, like one has to be humble, one has to be tolerant. So many other qualities are required to be able to forgive. One has to be compassionate.
Yes, Mataji.
I just wanted to add a little bit, if I may.
Please.
That religious question about if someone asks for forgiveness, but they actually don't forgive us. That is described by our acharyas, that generally Vaishnava will always forgive, because that's a nature of a devotee. But he said that, but if the offense somehow or other is so
severe
that Vaishnava cannot forgive, then the person who is apologizing has to serve the devotee in such a way that their heart softens. So it's not that we just leave, because it continues that cycle. And on top of it, they say we not only apologize, we have to continuously chant the holy name. Is this a Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives this remedy for offense to the
Very nice, very nice. Yes, no, very nice that apology is not accepted. We can repent, by trying to serve that person and make up for our wrongdoing in whatever way we can, and hopefully over time the heart will soften.
Yes, Prabhu, this is the same thing. Like they will see exactly the forgiveness is just by the word or by the actions. They'll see actions. The advanced Vaishnavas, they see it, notice.
Because really when we ask forgiveness, we repent. And if we feel sad and sorry, and if we see that this person did not actually accept, then our sorry feeling is still going on in the heart, and naturally
Yes.
our reaction will basically want to somehow.
That's very wonderful addition, Mati. Yes, we can try to.
An apology. If we say, okay, I
Yeah.
did it and he didn't accept, so what can I do?
Yes.
That's my business.
So
Then
this
we
is
say,
by the word or from heart or from heart.
Yes, yes, very nice. Thank you, thank you. Okay, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai. Ki jai. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Nīlamaṇī Prabhu. Hari Hari.